This behemoth is the Kia EV9 and it's got every gadget you can put into a car, so already my gadget gland is tingling. Oh, no, that's my phone. As for price and range, this car is available in 3 different flavors. All the information's there on the screen. This, however, is the top spec one, and there's so much to cover in this video, you might as well grab some popcorn, put on your seatbelt, let's crack into it. And we are off, and while there are definitely 3 models to choose from, this particular one, this is the GT line, this is the top spec one. Let's talk about what makes this one interesting. Starting with the power plant, it has almost a 100 kilowatt hour battery underneath this car. That's a staggering amount of energy stored there. As for power, it has 287 almost kilowatts of power, divided between the front and the rear wheels with 700 torquing Isaac Newtons. That is a serious amount of power. It gives it a 0 to 100 time of 6 seconds, which is very good, but incredible when you consider the mass of the vehicle. Getting 2.6 tons up to 100 k's an hour in 6 seconds, that is nothing short of incredible. It's got more mass than the Pope on Sundays, and yet somehow it gets to 100 in the same time as a sports car. But now let's talk design, and like with cutlery in a fancy restaurant, we start from the outside and work our way in. The exterior design, there's no other way to describe it. It is striking. It's head-turning, it's polarizing, it's bold. Look at the design on the thing. It is wild. Everywhere I go in this car, it turns heads. I mean, look at the rear, look at the front, look at the staunch angles. It is boxy, it is pointy. In fact, it's pointier than that 80s pop singer. You know the one I'm talking about. This car is the complete antithesis, it's the opposite of the Tesla Model Y. It's the opposite of the Mercedes EQB. It's boxy, and the reason Kia actually designed it to be this boxy, as shallow as it sounds, is because it looks tough. They wanted it to look tough, and well, mission accomplished. As for the interior, however, it's the complete opposite. In here, they've gone for more of a minimalist approach. It's kind of serene, it's sensible, it's kind of grey though. It reminds me of, well, Korea in the winter. No, not that Korea, the other one. Thank you. As I mentioned, Kia say they're going for a minimalist approach on this interior, and I'm not quite sure they've got it because it's pretty busy, although the central display here, this is the main focal point, and that's pretty seamless. It's streamlined. They've got 2 12.3-inch displays with a little 5-inch display on the middle, and I just hit the wipers. Little 5-inch display here in the middle, which is also touchscreen, lets you control the air conditioning controls. Also, because this vehicle has a completely flat floor, both in the front and the back, it maximizes space. That does add to the simplistic look they're going for. Let's move on to comfort now, and this is where this car really excels because it is stupidly comfortable, starting with the driver's seat. Heaps of room above my head. I'm 5'10", and there's masses of room, heaps of leg room, and because of the height of the seat, getting in and out is really easy. You just slide straight in, you slide straight out, and even though this is kind of a big SUV, that sill between the driver's seat and the edge of the car is not actually that wide. You don't have to leap out of it like you do with like the Mercedes EQE or any of those other Mercedes cars. This seat that I'm sitting in, however, is completely adjustable in ways you can't even imagine. Obviously, the seat goes up and down, it goes back and forth, but I've got lumbar support, which I can put in and out and up and down, and I've also got this leg support. By pushing this button here, I can extend the leg support to support my legs, and there's even a button that lets the seat fully recline. Hold that down, look at that. That is a masterpiece in levels of comfort. I love that. Another cool thing this seat has is side bolsters that are adjustable. So if you put the car into sport mode, it will shock you at first, but you put the car into sport mode, you can feel the seat hugging you. The side bolsters close in on you to give you more lateral support, which is really nice because, well, let's face it, I haven't been hugged in a while. It doesn't stop there though, because this seat is heated. Yes, this vehicle has heated seats in both the front seat and the passenger seat, and the rear seats as well. Those are heated as well. Plus, it has ventilated seats as well. Driver seat's ventilated, passenger seat is also ventilated, and even the freeloaders in the back have ventilated seats. Yes, the second row has heating and ventilation, all on this top spec model. How cool is that? But now let's move on to gadgets. This is going to be my favorite segment of the video because this car is dripping with gadgets. Starting with the sound system. This top spec one has the 14-speaker Meridian sound system, which is clearer than a drill instructor's instructions. Of course, this car also has connectivity. You've got USB ports here in the front. You can switch the USB ports on the front by pushing the button, changes it from USB data to USB fast charging. I've got USB ports in the back on both sides. And of course, even in the back, there's more USB ports. There's also a 12-volt port in the boot. There's a 12-volt port here. There's no shortage of connections, but watch this. In the back, there is 230 volts mains power. Yes, you can actually run appliances in the back there. Perfect if you want to take your car camping and maybe cook up some potatoes. A lot of people don't realize you can cook hash browns, potato products, in a toaster. How cool is that? This one also comes with a sunroof in the front. Yes, there's a front sunroof which does open. Opens just enough for you to stand atop of your EV9 and pretend you're Montgomery controlling your troops in the desert. There's also a sunroof in the middle for rear seat passengers. It doesn't open, but it does have a sunshade. However, rear seat passengers have their own air conditioning controls back there. They can control their own aircon, and of course there's vents in the second row, and there are also vents in the third row. One cool gadget though that this particular model in New Zealand doesn't have is swivel seats. If you get the 6-seat model in the UK, you can get the option of having swivel seats in the back. So yes, your passengers can spin around and stare at the other passengers for an entire journey, which is great if you're a bit of a psycho. Speaking of not liking looking at your passengers, there's a cool function that this display has, which if I flick this, it turns it into a camera. Yes, it uses a camera on the top of the rear window, and you can project whatever you're looking at onto this display instead. And speaking of displays, check out these on the corner of the dashboard. How wicked is that? You've got these two little displays which take the place of external wing mirrors. Instead, there are now cameras on the outside projecting the image onto these displays here. The definition is fantastic, but it will take some getting used to because you haven't got that natural option of being able to move your head. There's probably a word for it, but move your head and change the angle by moving around. You can't do that because it's a fixed display. Speaking of displays, the two 12.3-inch displays, seamlessly joined with the 5-inch display in the middle, are remarkable. There's a lot of information to take in, and it's going to take a bit of learning, to be honest, for you to figure it all out. Because even I've had this car for what, 3-4 days now, and I've been through the menu 3 or 4 times to learn it. But even though I have a pornographic memory, I'm still having to go back and figure out where things are. Also, another thing this model doesn't have, at least not yet, is built-in dash cams. This car is surrounded by cameras, but it still doesn't have the option to record stuff onto an SD card or something. And considering this car has over-the-air software updates, I'm genuinely expecting that function to be available in this car soon, because a dash cam, if you haven't got one, get one, because they will save your bacon. In no fewer than 3 separate accounts, dash cams have saved me from other people running into me. Yes, I do seem to be a bit of a magnet for people that are hell-bent on crashing. And speaking of over-the-air software updates that may come soon, something New Zealand will get is a mobile app to control the car. So soon, New Zealand drivers will be able to control their EV9, turn on the air conditioning, check the status of charge, unlock the car, put the windows down, all that sort of stuff will be coming soon. Stay tuned. Let's look at how much storage space you've got in this car, and with those rear seats up, you pop the boot open, there is not a lot of room. There's like 312 litres of space, so it's pretty tight. However, if you drop all the seats down, which is so easy to do, look at this, you just pull straps and push buttons, and suddenly you've got 2,318 litres of capacity in this car. That is more than enough room for me to lie all the way down and still have room left over. This car is, I want to call it a TARDIS, but it's not, because it's big on the outside and big on the inside. It is impressive. Also, supposedly, that rear parcel shelf can actually be stowed away. The Kia guy did it in front of me and it looked so easy, but do you think I could do it? No! But apparently it can be stowed under the floor somehow. As I mentioned, there's a reasonable amount of legroom in the back, especially in the second row. If you put the seats all the way back, look how much leg and headroom you've got. But even in the far back, even though legroom may be kind of snug, there's still so much headroom. This is such a tall car, so it doesn't matter how tall you are, you're likely to fit in this car. And moving all the way up to the front, let's now pop the bonnet. And yes, even though this thing is all-wheel drive with 2 motors, they've still found enough room in there to put in a 52-litre fartment. All in all, this car is loaded with storage. It's ideal for families, especially, well, very big families. But what's it like on the highway? Well, let's hit the highway and find out. And we're on the open road. We're doing 98 k's an hour on New Zealand's coarse chip roads, and even though the roads are bumpy and rubbish, it is quiet in here. I mean, listen to the cabin noise at 100 k's an hour. That's pretty good. There's no roar. I am more cocooned than Wilfred Brimley. It's as comfortable as you think it would be as well. It's just an absolute pleasure to drive. It's also really smart. Like, I've got these cameras above the steering column which are watching me constantly. If I look away for too long, if I get distracted by potato fields, it will beep, it will tell me to pay attention. It's also trying to stop me slouching. After a while on a road trip, say give it half an hour or so, the lumbar support will start kneading my back. It starts doing a salt and pepper, pushing it real good. This thing is also really, really efficient. It has a drag coefficient of 0.28. Now, for a car, that's really good. But for an SUV of this size and weight, that is an engineering feat. Seriously, one way to tell is that if I take off the regenerative braking, which I can do by using the flappy paddles on the steering wheel. If I take my foot off, it coasts. It coasts to the point where you will think, oh gosh, the cruise control's still on. No, it just glides. Part of the reason for that is it's 2.6 tons. It's a lot of mass to slow down. So it will just keep going. Now, I can't really go too fast right now because, as you can see in front of me, I'm stuck behind the 20th century hauling loads of the 20th century, this old-fashioned petrochemical stuff ready to be burnt up and released into the atmosphere. It's so old-fashioned. Speaking of efficiency though, look at the size of those 21-inch wheels. They're big, they're bold, they're also kind of square. There's a lot of angles on them, and angles don't typically result in good aerodynamics. And Kia have told me that yes, they're aware that those wheels, they're sacrificing some range to have those wheels because they are big and they are boxy. So in order to recoup the energy lost to those wheels, they've streamlined in other places. And one way they've streamlined is obviously by putting in cameras instead of wing mirrors. They're much more efficient. And another thing they've done, this is a bit of high-tech stuff that I've not seen in any other car, is that the drive shafts driving the front wheels have clutches on both shafts, and they can disconnect when there's no power being applied, which means that they're freewheeling. There's no resistance of a permanent magnet motor. They are just gliding. It's little things like that just gives you a few more Ks per charge. It's really remarkable. It really is a staggering vehicle. Like, look at the efficiency. It uses around 22.8 kilowatt hours per 100K. That's the official consumption rate. Now that works out to be about $60 worth of electricity per 1,000K. If you're using the EcoSaver plan from Ecotricity, it's the same plan I'm on. And to put it in perspective, if you took a similarly sized combustion luxury 7-seater like a Audi Q7, then first of all, no matter which option you go, you're going to pay more than you will for this. Secondly, to do that same 1,000 Ks, you're going to be looking at hundreds of dollars in petrol, plus you're going to be looking at almost 1/4 of a ton of carbon released into the atmosphere that you can't get back. Once it's done, it's done. One thing you can do, however, is get yourself an electric vehicle and use Ecotricity electricity, because it's New Zealand's only certified climate positive electricity provider. Every single electron you buy from them is from wind, hydro and solar. No dirty gas, no expensive coal, none of that petroleum products in front of me. It's climate positive. You can't get cleaner than that. Why aren't you signing up today at ecotricity.co.nz? Give your kids a bright future, unless you hate them, in which case use one of those other suppliers. Ecotricity, that's what you want to use though. But now, let's see how this car actually does 0 to 100. Let me find an empty slice of road, see what this thing's really like. And this is as good a place as any. We've found a nice 100k an hour zone, and there's no launch control, as far as I can tell. Nope. So let's just do it. 0 to 100, let's see what happens. 3, 2, 1. Crikey! Far out! This is madness! Look at that, and we did it just like that. That was quick! And if you've got mechanical sympathy, it will kind of make you wince a little bit, because we are moving 2.6 tons to 100 k's an hour in around 6 seconds. It is pretty staggering. But as impressive as that was, I want to see how this 2.6 ton office block handles in the corners, so let's go find some. Here we go. Oh, this is ridiculous. You feel like it should lumber around the corners when you hit them, but it actually holds on really well. Part of that's obviously the big tires, also the low center of gravity from its almost 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. It means that it's a surreal experience. It's really hard to put into words. Of course, it's got dynamic torque vectoring as well, so it's evenly delivering the power to each wheel, which is ideal if you're on loose surfaces or just really bumpy roads like most New Zealand roads. But to put it into words to describe the sensation of going around the corners, what? I want to say that it's nimble, but it's not. It's 2.6 tons. But at the same time, it doesn't let go. This is weird, man. This is just so weird. You have to experience it. Honestly, you could keep up with sports cars in this thing. It would look ridiculous, but you could do it. Oh, good Lord, I'm leaning into the corner. I'm holding in my guts because I feel like it shouldn't be doing this. Madness. All right, enough. I'm gonna put this back into normal mode, slow down, can feel my heart rate's increasing, but at the same time, it's hilarious to drive this thing at speed. It's a sensory overload, and speaking of sensory overload, I need to mention the elephant in the room, the thing that would stop me from buying this particular vehicle, and that is it won't shut up. It bings and bongs and chirps and chimes all the time. There's a beep for when you change speed zones. There's a beep for when you go over speed. There's a beep for when it thinks you're not paying attention. There's also a whole bunch of mystery beeps that I don't know what it means. It's beeping at me while I'm driving, but it doesn't show anything. It's just going bing, ding. What does that mean? What have I done? Honestly, it's like making love to R2-D2. This thing just won't shut up. And on that note, let's do the Spudscore. Starting with performance, and I'm giving it 8 out of 10 because it's 0 to 100 time is quick for a car, but brutally fast for a 2.6 ton brick. Handling's next, and it gets 7 out of 10 as it's staggeringly good despite its size. This thing tests the limits of physics. As for comfort, 8 out of 10, its sheer mass means it glides over every surface, but its height means that there is some lateral movement on bumpy roads, but the seats take care of that. Efficiency's next, and I'm giving it 5 out of 10. For its size, it's brilliant, but for an EV, it's pretty thirsty. What about gadgetry? Well, 10 out of 10. There's not much more you could fit in it. It's got everything the average driver needs except the kitchen sink, and knowing Kia, I wouldn't put it past them to put one in there. But what about value, you ask? Well, it's a fairly expensive vehicle, but not that much more expensive than other 7-seater EVs on the market, so 5 spuds there. As for charging, I'm giving it 9 out of 10 because its peak DC charging speed of 235 kilowatts means you can charge this car from 20 to 80% full in about 22 minutes, though you will need a fast charger. Oh, no, not that kind of charger. No, the clean one. Yes, that's it, from ChargeNet. ChargeNet has hundreds of fast DC chargers all around New Zealand, and their network is only growing, so sign up with them if you're getting an electric car. Style is next, and it's striking. For that alone, it gets 8 out of 10. Who would have thought that the same company that makes this swooping, curvaceous EV6 also makes this chunk of brutalist architecture on wheels? But is it fit for purpose? Well, yeah. No matter what you want to do, it does it. It carries 7 humans in comfort. It tows 2.5 tons. It's fast. It's clean. It's got a 5-star safety rating. It'll turn heads no matter where you go. 9 out of 10 spuds. But the make or break metric is PSC, and I'm delighted to announce that the EV9 holds 70 potatoes. That is 1 more than the Tesla Model Y, so I'm giving it 8 spuds there. Well done. That gives the EV9 a total spud score of 77. And there you have it. That is the guts of the Kia EV9 GT line. Kia have gone a little bit mad making this car, and I love it. They've manufactured a car in which during the construction they have ticked every single box, and this is the result. It's mad, it's crazy, and if you're a car fanatic, then you can't deny that Kia have made the world a slightly more interesting place with this thing in it.